So it feels like it's been a while. I wanted to. So Memorial Day was 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. And on Memorial Day, I wanted to talk about Katelyn. Unfortunately, I couldn't. But I wanted to discuss Katelyn because so many of the poems and memes that were going around regarding Memorial Day, um, they made me think of Katelyn. And you might be thinking, how in the world? Well, these poems touched on sacrificing your life for freedom. Of course, when it comes to Memorial Day and the soldiers, they're talking about sacrificing your life for others' freedom. But in Katelyn's case, in a very metaphorical way, she sacrificed her life for freedom, for her own freedom. Freedom from pain, freedom from abuse, freedom from the effects she was feeling from certain medications, feeling like a disposable piece of nothing. Perhaps even it was to free her siblings because she knew that if she did that, people would finally start paying attention to what was going on. None of us will ever really know what the breaking point was for her that day. Nobody. We can speculate. We have ideas. And so when I was reading these poems, it really made me think of Katelyn. And yeah, I just wanted to say that. And for those of y'all who were drawn to Katelyn because y'all feel like y'all can relate to Katelyn's feelings of despair and suicidal ideation, just remember that it's irreversible. And I'm not sure that she would choose to come back, but I feel like if she had a choice, out of that impulsive moment, that impulsive decision, or really lack of decision, it seemed more like an impulsive sort of action. She drew it out for so long. A lot of us speculate that she actually was hoping someone would intervene, especially considering that she publicized it. But we're not certain of what she would do, but I have an inkling of a belief that she would choose to come back. I can't say why for certain, but I feel like she would choose to come back. So this too shall pass is something to remind yourself if you're feeling depressed. This too shall pass, and we all die. We're all gonna die. There's nothing really unique or here's the thing. If people aren't gonna pay attention to you while you're alive, no matter how much you cut yourself or cry for them or anything, it's not gonna make a difference when you die. It might for a few weeks, a few days, and then people move on because they're also gonna die. There's really nothing special about death. It happens to all of us. And nobody is worth your life. And then some people I've come across are just apathetic to living. Like it's not even about abuse. They just don't really care to live anymore. And to those people, I say to just carry on until if you hate life, well, don't worry because it's going to leave you one day, is how I see it. Like, I didn't always see it that way. We sometimes are pushed in corners where we feel like that's it, that's the end. And there's no way out. And you feel like you're in this video game with these invisible walls and you're trying to break through, but you can't. You want to know who's controlling the game, but you can't. So you feel like the only way you can escape that fake reality or that horrible reality, that game that you're trapped in, is to end it, is to click game over. And the it gets better movement that the LGBT community perpetuates is great. It doesn't just apply to people getting bullied for being gay, it applies to all of life. It gets better. And that doesn't necessarily mean it gets great. That just means here you are. I feel like you're at rock bottom if you want to take your life. There's no lower point than that. You're at rock bottom. It doesn't matter if you're rich, beautiful, it doesn't matter anything. If you want to take your life, you're at rock bottom. So there's no other there's no other direction for your life to go other than up at that point. Which means getting better is inevitable. Doesn't mean getting perfect. It doesn't mean getting happy. Honestly, I don't think I don't think intelligent humans were made to be happy. When you reach a certain level of awareness, if you have any empathy, that means if you pay attention to anybody else's suffering, especially in this world with the internet, where you're made even more aware of all the suffering, it makes it very difficult. You have to remind yourself all the time of ways to be happy. It's not like, that blissful ignorance that you have as a child. You don't have to constantly remind, like kids don't have to wake up every day and like give these words of affirmations to themselves, things like that. It's really important to, when you are an adult, or even at Kate, because Caitlin was super brilliant, if you have that awareness, look at yourself in the mirror and out loud, as cheesy as it is, say, you are great. You are great. You are great. Because it doesn't matter how much other people tell you you're great. You need to believe it. I know this has been said a million times, but it's the truth. That's the truth. It actually, the first time I tried doing that, I couldn't say it out loud. Like I looked at the mirror and I was like, you look great, Rachel. You look great. You're great. You're a great person. Like, but I wasn't really believing it. Like I had to actually see myself, hear myself. I had to tell it to myself in the mirror at my reflection as though I were someone else telling me that. But it was like I had to believe that the Rachel I know myself as was telling myself that, if you get what I'm saying. And then it really, throughout the day, it was like those words stayed with me, like of me telling myself that. And I had to believe it because we've all made mistakes. Some of us have done really bad things, but if we feel bad for it and we try not to do those bad things again, that means that you're not a bad person. And I think the biggest trick to being happy in this world is learning to be okay with not being okay. So, I mean, it's as simple as it sounds. It's not as simple to implement into your day-to-day life, but it's that simple of a concept. You don't feel okay, you're getting bullied, you've got parents, you've got a whole family that doesn't love you, which seems to be the common denominator with suicidal people. You are poor, you hormonally and chemically, you just can't find a balance. You constantly feel like you're falling apart the second you wake up. You have to learn to try to be okay with that and try to sit with those feelings and accept them. I don't mean think about it like for a fleeting second, like, okay, I'm okay with this. No, because that's not going to work. You have to actually pause and think of what it is that's really bringing you down, and think of the at leasts in that moment. Well, I'm poor, but at least I have water to drink that's clean. Well, my whole family hates me, but at least I know that they shouldn't. Because a lot of people don't know that their family shouldn't hate them. They blame themselves. Or I have a tumor growing out of the side of my face that disfigures me and makes people stare at me. Well, at least I'm unique. And at least I'm alive and aware, and I'm not like a plant that just is. Like, at least I can create. I can write, I can draw, I can watch, I can be entertained. I can entertain if I want. The world is at my fingertips, regardless of this meat sack being deformed or being covered in zits. Y'all didn't see what I look like before I cover up my psoriasis. I have people stare at me and stare at my forehead and ask what's wrong with me. Although it's gotten a lot better since I've gone vegan. Although I've been vegan for a long time. But yeah, there's always an at least, unless you are in that moment leaving the earth. And even then there's an at least. There's always an at least. And it's so important to find those. It's so important. Peter Dinklage, is that his name? He's the one he's the dwarf from, oh, my computer screen. He's the dwarf from Game of Thrones. And I think his name is, God, what is it on there? He's a Targaryen. I don't know I'm sorry. I actually don't watch the show, but I do know that he has a lot of female admirers in real life. And, you have to think about it. He has a lot of these female admirers because he embraces what a lot of people would see as a huge flaw. As a dwarf, a man who is basically like child size with features that are squashed and has feet, and his, everything is different. No, I shouldn't say squashed, but you know what I mean. He could go around hanging his head down and saying, look at me, I'm a freak. Everybody stares at me when I go out in public. Why do I even want to leave the house? Why was I born this way? Why did I deserve this? Everyone makes fun of me. Everyone laughs at me everywhere I go. No, instead, he looks in the mirror and he embraces that. And look how far just simply not resisting. Because see, that's the problem with the entire world really, is resistance. When you resist something, whether it's food or happiness or gratitude or your body, when you resist those things, that's when weight gain happens, trauma happens, self-loathing happens. And it's not always that simple. Sometimes there are outside forces that we can't control. But I'm talking about from our insides. That's where a lot of really horrible things happen. That's where the birth of those things occur. And in his case, he's set with the fact, I'm sure initially growing up, because he got bullied, I'm sure he initially had a little bit of an internal battle that ensued, that he had to approach. And he could have felt sorry for himself, isolated himself, ate his feelings, and basically accepted what other people were saying about him rather than accepting the fact that there's nothing wrong with any sort of deformity or body type. So what did he do? He started going to acting auditions. If you accept yourself, others have no choice but to accept you. They can try not to, but it doesn't matter. And I wish I would have known all this as a teenager, because the torment that I put my body through and my skin through from trying to please other people with my psoriasis is irreversible. And there's nothing I can do about all that. And same with alcohol. When I used to drink alcohol and damage my liver, I was doing that so I would be more likable by other people. So I would be less high strung. And, and if I would have just accepted, this is me. I am emotionally weird. I'm insecure. I'm paranoid. I have psoriasis. I've got red spots all over my body. I'm really ditzy when it comes to math. I am a horrible driver. If I would have accepted a lot of my flaws, instead of just letting other people steer myself, then I would have been at my absolute highest self. So that's the biggest thing. I feel like Katelyn was not being taught or shown or exemplified at all, was that, I mean, my God, think of all the things we could have been born as on this planet. Insects, plants, all sorts of mammals, all sorts of people. And she was born, yes, into a horrible family, yes, into a horrible environment, yes, into not one of the best cities in this world or towns. But look at the mind she was given. Look at the body she was given. She wasn't born with any, major diseases or allergies or, there was no health issue. So her body was a blessing. Her face was a blessing. Her voice was a blessing. Her mind was a blessing. Her heart was a blessing, right? But instead, she was accepting, even if she didn't realize it, on a subconscious level, because she repeated it over and over, what her stepdad was saying. and his behavior toward her, she accepted that as somehow acceptable, even if she didn't realize it. The fact that she would repeat it and let it hurt her, she was giving it permission to. And unfortunately, at her age, you basically give everyone permission to do anything without realizing it, and if they are an authoritarian position. And if she had just had someone on a regular basis let her know that just because they're treating her this way does not, that's their reflection of themselves. The way they treated her was a reflection of them. It wasn't a reflection of her. And that's what we do, is we're not looking in our own mirror, we are looking in other people's mirrors. When they treat us badly and we allow it to hurt us and we allow it to affect our choices, then we are looking in their mirror, not our mirror. So I really do need to go because I have to be somewhere, but I wanted to talk about this on Memorial Day. And are still to this day so many songs I hear that make me think of Katelyn, that I just will be driving and start crying. And or when I see great things happening to kids who are her age that deals with the arts, whether it's acting, singing, writing, I always think, gosh, that could be Katelyn. That could be Katelyn. So yeah, and thanks to all the messages and comments I've been getting. It's the end of my kids' school year, so it has been pretty hectic. Pretty hectic. But I have to go. Thanks for watching, you guys.